Welcome to This Explainer. I'm absolutely thrilled you're tuning in today because we're diving straight into the very mechanics of the human mind. We're going to decode exactly how your brain acquires new habits, absorbs complex information, and fundamentally changes its behavior. So if you're a focused learner looking to understand the actual machinery behind your own intellect, well, you're in exactly the right place. It all begins with one really fundamental question. How do we actually learn? Think about your own daily behaviors for a second. How did you learn to automatically stop at a red light? How do you master some complex new software at work? Or even simpler, why do you instinctively check your phone the second it buzzes? Are we basically just biological machines responding to rewards? Or is there, some deeper, sudden magic happening inside our heads?
All right, let's dive right into this. Learning isn't just one single solitary mechanism. It's actually a super dynamic mix. We're going to explore this whole concept from the outside in today. We'll start by looking at how external rewards and our environments shape our actions. Then we'll see how those basic actions become structured building blocks. And finally, we'll journey deep into the mind to uncover those sudden internal leaps of understanding, those brilliant epiphanies.
So, here is our roadmap for today's explainer. First, we'll look at rewarding behavior through operant conditioning. Second, we're building blocks with Gagne's hierarchy. Third, we hit the aha moment via insight learning. And finally, we'll connect the dots using the Gestalt laws. Let's get started.
Section 1. Rewarding behavior. Operant conditioning.
Way back in the 1930s, B.F. Skinner looked at learning through a highly mechanical external lens. In his framework, organisms basically learn to repeat behaviors that give them positive outcomes or behaviors that let them avoid negative ones. It's a pure environment of actions and consequences. To really grasp his theory, we have to separate our behavior into two distinct buckets. On the left side, we have reflexes, sometimes called respondents. Now, these are automatic. They're elicited responses triggered by specific stimuli, kind of like an automatic physical reaction. But over on the right, we have operants, and these are absolutely vital. Operants are emitted responses. They aren't triggered by some known, obvious stimulus. Instead, they're intentional actions an organism takes to actually operate on its environment and change it. Operant conditioning, then, is all about figuring out how to make those intentional behaviors happen a lot more frequently.
And how exactly do we increase the frequency of a behavior? Well, through reinforcement. Positive reinforcement? That just means adding a pleasant experience right after the response happens. Think of a teacher giving praise, maybe flashing a smile, or offering a tangible reward to increase the chance a student repeats that great behavior. Negative reinforcement, on the other hand, is withdrawing an unpleasant experience from the situation to increase that exact same probability. So it's not punishment. Both of these are simply tools designed to make a desired action happen again.
Now, what's really interesting here is the timing of those rewards. Skinner called this the schedule of reinforcement. You can have a continuous schedule where literally every single correct response gets praised. This is fantastic for teaching a brand new skill. Then you've got the fixed interval schedule, which is entirely based on time, like rewarding an animal exactly every 5 minutes. Moving down the list, the fixed ratio schedule is based on quantity. Say, a student gets a shiny new pencil after exactly 5 correct answers. And finally, there's the variable schedule. This one is totally unpredictable, like occasional random compliments from a boss or teacher. Whether we're training our pets, teaching a classroom full of students, or just looking forward to our own paycheck, we are constantly operating on these exact reinforcement schedules.
Section 2. Building blocks. Gagne's hierarchy.
Okay, let's shift gears for a minute. What if learning isn't just a flat, open landscape of actions and rewards? What if it's actually a climb? Robert M. Gagne attempted to bridge the gap between those simple external rewards and our really complex internal problem solving. He defined learning as a profound change in human capacities, basically a set of specified intellectual capabilities that have a very ordered relationship to each other. Gagne realized that learning is strictly hierarchical. You can't solve a complex algebra equation without first knowing numbers, right? He argued that basic connections and simple behaviors actually stack, one on top of the other, into highly advanced intellectual skills.
Let's actually climb Gagne's ladder together. We start all the way at the bottom with basic instincts, like stopping at a red light. Then we move up to chained motor skills, like buttoning a shirt. As we climb higher, things get quite a bit more complex. We learn to differentiate similar stimuli, like finally knowing the difference between the words quite and quiet. We group concepts together, like recognizing fruits, and then we link those rules into much broader principles. Finally, right there at the peak, we hit problem solving. This is the highest cognitive process, where a learner invents entirely new procedures to solve problems by using all those rules and concepts they've stacked up along the way.
Section 3. The aha moment. Insight learning.
Now that structured step-by-step climb is incredibly satisfying. But let's be real, sometimes learning isn't a ladder at all. Sometimes it just hits you all at once. To really understand this, we need to pivot entirely away from those external behaviors and focus on internal cognitive perception. This brings us to the Gestalt psychologists, Kohler, Kafka, and Wertheimer. The word Gestalt literally translates to the whole or the totality of a situation. These cognitive field theories suggest that learning isn't merely about chaining isolated parts together. Instead, it's a profound process of developing deep understanding by looking at the absolute totality of an experience.
In fact, there's a famous quote that totally anchors the philosophy of the Gestalt movement. The whole is more important than its parts. You see, unlike Skinner's highly mechanical bots, we don't just blindly respond to specific, isolated stimuli in our environment. We are constantly evaluating relationships. We look at the entire puzzle, the complete picture, and we make intelligent, informed decisions based on how every single piece fits together.
And when those pieces suddenly fit together in your mind, that is insight. It's the sudden grasping of a solution, a literal flash of understanding. Kohler famously tested this by placing chimpanzees in tricky, problematic situations. For instance, he'd hang a banana just out of reach and place some wooden boxes nearby. The chimpanzees wouldn't just jump around trying random blind actions. They would actually pause. They'd look at the whole environment. And then, boom, insight. Suddenly they'd start stacking the boxes to reach the banana. It was a completely spontaneous, creative deduction.
And honestly, that brilliantly illustrates the exact steps of insight learning. First, you identify a problem. Then, you let the ideas incubate in the background of your mind. You might go through a little bit of trial and error. And then suddenly, insight development strikes. From there, you effortlessly repeat that new adaptive behavior, and you walk away with total comprehension of your brand new ability. It's not a slow grind. It is a sudden, highly intellectual leap.
Section 4. Connecting the dots. Gestalt laws.
So how exactly does our brain automatically organize this incredibly chaotic world into a unified picture? Well, just look at how your mind connects the dots right now. By the law of similarity, your brain naturally sees those O's as a distinct, organized line. Because of proximity, you aren't seeing 6 individual random lines. Your brain instantly groups them into 3 pairs. Thanks to closure, your mind just effortlessly fills in the gaps of a broken oval to perceive one complete, closed shape. And with continuity, crossing lines magically become flowing paths rather than a bunch of sharp angles meeting at a center. Your brain is essentially a masterful organizer, constantly unifying separate stimuli into meaningful wholes so you can actually learn and navigate the world.
What a journey, right? We've traveled from the external mechanics of rewards and reinforcements, we climbed the hierarchical ladder of human capacity, and we dove deep into those spontaneous, magical leaps of insight and perception. So I want to leave you with one final thought to analyze in your own daily life. Are you learning by reward, or are you just waiting around for your next aha moment? Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into the mind. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I will catch you in the next explainer.